Hello everyone! Today we're going to be learning about how to add and subtract fractions. So the first step in adding and subtracting fractions is to find a common denominator. I have, for example, let's say I have the fractions 1/2 plus 2/3. So the first step I want is to find a common denominator. So what is a denominator? Basically, I'm going to give you some terminology, I'm going to give you some vocabulary you can review. So the numbers over here, so 1 and 2, these are called the numerator. So this is basically the numerator. The numerator is basically at the top of this bar, the bar right here. So this is the numerator, this is the numerator. So what's the denominator? Well, it's this number, and this number. In this case, the denominator is 2 and 3. Okay, so the numbers at the bottom of this bar are the denominator. So basically, if I say, which of the following 2's is in the numerator, then the answer would be this. If I said, which of the 2's is in the denominator, the answer would be this. I would ask, is the number 1 in the numerator or in the denominator? Well, it's in the numerator because it's at the top of this bar, it's at the top of this line. If I were to ask you, is the number 3 in the numerator or denominator? It's in the denominator because it's at the bottom of this line. So this is just some basic terminology that you'll need to know in order to add and subtract fractions. So I'm going to rewrite this because it got a little messy up there. So 1/2 plus 2/3. So basically what I want to do is find a common denominator. Now that you know what the word denominator means, can you make a guess on what finding a common denominator is? So basically finding a common denominator is that if you see 2 and if you see 3, they're obviously not the same number. So finding a common denominator is figuring out how to make this 2 and this 3 the same number without changing the value of the fraction. So it might seem a little complicated, but let's go with this example. So this is 1/2 plus 2/3. So how do you find a common denominator? Well, you multiply the two numbers in the denominator. So you multiply 2 and you multiply 3 because they're the two numbers in the denominator. So what's 2 times 3? 6. This is equal to 6 plus 6. What's in the numerator? Is the numerator 1 over 6 plus 2 over 6 because, the numerator was 1 and 2? Because we changed the denominators, the numerator is something else. Well, the answer is that it's something else. So let's think about it for a minute. This fraction is supposed to correspond with this fraction, and this fraction is supposed to correspond, the second fraction, 2/3, is supposed to correspond with this second fraction. So let's just pay attention to these two really quick. Does it make sense that 1/2 equals 1/6? No, it doesn't. And if you're still unsure about that, I would suggest getting a scientific or a graphing calculator and then putting in the values, like 1/2, what does 1/2 equal? And what does 1/6 equal? And then you'll get the decimal versions of that. So 1/2 equals 0.5, and 1/6 is 0.16667. So 0.5 does not equal 1.6667. Basically, you're trying to get these two fractions equal, but if you put the 1 here, like how you put it over here, then it's not going to, like if you're trying to put the 1 in the numerator like you put it over here, it's not going to be the same fraction. If you put the 1 over here, you're changing the fraction, and that's not going to lead you to the right answer. It's most probably not. So what do you do instead? Well, since you want the same fraction, if you want this fraction to equal this fraction, you have to figure out a numerator that equals this. So one thing you might ask yourself is that 1/2 equals what over 6? So it equals 1/2 equals x over 6. You're trying to figure out this number. So this number is x. Because remember, x is a variable, and variables are missing numbers. So you're trying to solve for that. So how you solve for x, there's a couple ways you can do it, or I'm going to tell you 2 ways. So one way is to figure out 2 times what equals 6. So you'll get 2 times 3 equals 6. And this is the interesting part. I always found this pretty interesting. Whatever you do over here, you do the same thing in the numerator. What is 3 over 3? 3 over 3 is equal to 1. What is any number times 1 equal to? The exact same number. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. 40 times 1 is 40. Same way, 1/2 times 1 equals 1/2. So basically, over here, it's like 3 over 3 is 1. So if you have 1 over 2 times 3 over 3, then you get, in the numerator, you multiply 1 times 3, and then you get 3, and then 2 times 3 is 6. So you get 3 over 6. So here's the thing. When you multiply any number by 1, you're not changing its value. Now you might be a little confused as to why, like, okay, look, this is 1/2 and this is 3/6, and they're completely different numbers. It's 1 and 2 versus 3 and 6. Like, they actually are. They are the same. They may not be the same numbers, but they're the same values. Because if you reduce 3 over 6, you will get 1/2. So 3 over 6 is another version of 1/2. I can multiply 1/2 to 2 over 2, and that'll be 2 over 4. I can multiply 1/2 times 4 over 4, and I'll get 4 over 8. 2 over 2 is equal to 1. 4 over 4 is equal to 1. 3 over 3 is equal to 1. You can use this in literally any math problem. Any number times 1 is equal to that number, the exact same number. So 1/2 is equal to 2 over 4, and 2 over 4 and 1/2 are equal to 4 over 8. 1/2, 2 over 4, and 4 over 8 are equal to 3 over 6. And then I will show you another way to do this. So you had 1/2 plus 2 over 3, and then common denominator of 6, right? Another way to do this, so we had this, right? We had 1/2 equals x over 6. So basically, another way to do this, and some students find this easier, some students find it harder, it's really your personal preference, is to cross multiply. So this is what I mean by cross multiply. You multiply one number's denominator by another number's numerator, and you multiply one number's numerator with another number's denominator. So let me show you. So the denominator in this number is 2. So you multiply that with the numerator of the other number, which is x. So you get 2x, and then you multiply the numerator of one number with the denominator of another number. So this is the numerator of 1/2. So you multiply 1 and 6 together. You get that equals 6. And then you will get x equals 3. So you just figure out what this x is. This x is 3, and then this is 6, so right here. So now you just figured out what this fraction is. 1/2 equals to 3 over 6. Now pause this video really quick and see what 2 over 3 equals to. So assuming you've paused this video and you've worked at it, let's figure it out. So 2 over 3 is equal to, and I'm going to use a different variable just so that I don't confuse you. 2 over 3 is equal to y over 6, right? Because we're trying to figure out this number, and we know that these two numbers, that this number must equal that number, that this number must equal this number, right? So what's the first way you can do? You can think, so 3 times what equals 6? So basically, what's 6 divided by 3? And you get the answer as 2. So you get 2/3 times 2, and then whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. Remember, if you only multiply the denominator by 2 and you don't multiply the numerator by anything, you're changing the fraction. So in this case, if you only multiply the denominator by 2 but you didn't multiply the numerator by anything, you're multiplying the fraction by 1/2, which is changing the value of the fraction. But if you multiply it by 2/2, if you multiply the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2, you're multiplying it by 2/2, which equals 1. And 1 times any number is the same value. So over here, since 3 times 2 equals 6, so what is 2 times 2? 2 times 2 is equal to 4. So you just figure out the value of y, which is 4/6. But let's try the other way. So the first way was to figure out what the number in the first denominator times something equals the next number in the denominator. So we got 3 times 2 equals 6. So let's try the second way, which is cross multiplication. So let's assume we don't know that this is 4/6 yet. So we have 2/3 equals y/6, right? So we cross multiply. What's cross multiplying again? You multiply the numerator of one number times the denominator of another number, and you multiply the numerator of that number times the denominator of the other number. So you multiply the numerator of 2/3, which is 2, times the denominator of y/6, which is 6. And then when you multiply 2 times 6, you'll get 12. Then you multiply the denominator of this number and the numerator of y/6, which is y. So you get 12 equals 3y. Then, after you divide both sides by 3, you will get y equals 4. That is the same answer we got through the first method. So the first method got us the same answer as the second method. So now we know for sure the answer is y equals 4. So you have 4 right over here. So you have 3 over, and I'm going to write that neatly actually. Okay, so you have 3/6 plus 4/6. Now that you have common denominators, you can add the numerators. So 3 plus 4 is equal to 7. And then the denominator, what do you do with the denominator? Do you add 6 and 6, or do you just keep the 6? The answer is you just keep the 6. So you only add the numerator numbers. The denominator, if there's a common denominator, then this number equals the final answer number. So I just want you to keep that in mind because a lot of students make mistakes on that. They say 3/6 plus 4/6 equals 7/12, which is not true because you don't add the denominators. You don't add them at all. You only add the numerators. And then the answer you'll get is 7/6. You can turn this into a mixed fraction later, which we haven't learned about yet. But for now, 7/6 is good. It's the correct answer. And that is it for today. So I hope this was helpful, and if not, please try the practice problems, and please try practicing even more and more, because it really helps, it really strengthens the skill. That's it for today. Hope this was helpful.